Sound resumed.
Hey everybody, and welcome back for a very special live stream we got going on today. I have a very special guest. We have Chris Bourassa, the creative director and artist from Red Hook Studios, on with us today. Chris, what's going on?
How's it going, dude? Thanks for having me on.
Yes, I'm very excited to have you here. I've already gushed a little bit to you, and the stream will get more of it.
Well, yeah, okay. Try and be cool, though, so it's not weird.
No, I'll be cool. Totally cool
Okay.
with this. I got this. I got this. Totally not a fanboy. No, but for regulars here on Feed Me Pixels, you guys should be really familiar with me playing Darkest Dungeon. It's one of my favorite games. It was definitely my favorite game of 2015. I mentioned how I put way more hours into it than Fallout 4, The Witcher 3, Metal Gear Solid 5 combined.
Wow.
Yeah, it was definitely my favorite game of 2015. I wrote some articles about it on feedmepixels.com talking about how you guys handled your early access. Really impressed all around. My favorite indie game, hands down.
Oh, thanks, man. That's great to hear. It's been a lot of work, but it's very nice of you to say.
Yeah, so once again, Chris, thank you for coming out. Humbled to have you on the channel. I know we're not the biggest channel out there, so I really appreciate you taking your time. Hang out with us.
No worries, man. Yeah, it's size of the channel doesn't really concern me so much as just being able to get out there. Like, I think Twitch is awesome for just being able to see people enjoy your work, so it doesn't really matter how big the viewer count is to me anyway.
Yeah. Well, I know you guys are really involved with the community aspect. That's actually one of the things we're going to be talking about today, your latest patch, and how that's completely based on viewer feedback. Before we get into that, though, guys, I did want to mention for today's developer live stream that the bot has been disabled. We want to keep the chat clean so we can answer any questions that might come up. And, you know, we don't want to have crazy Kinsanity and rockets and explosions going off during this live stream. Obviously, that would throw things off a little bit. All right. For those of you curious, what's playing in the background, it's a little low. I just turned it up. I have the original soundtrack for the Darkest Dungeon playing in the background, which, by the way, is awesome.
Yeah, Stuart did a really exceptional job on it.
I just turned it up. Thank you guys for the follows. I'm kind of going to be ignoring the alerts and stuff. Going to keep my focus here with Chris. He deserves it. For those of you who do not know Chris, he's pretty much a seasoned veteran when it comes to animation and game design. I know Chris has worked on animated series. I have my notes here. You worked on Max Steel, the reboot for that?
Yeah, that's right.
How is that whole process? Like, how is that different than working in video games?
Well, that's what I wanted to find out. I was freelancing for a couple of years, just doing illustration and things like that for, you know, basically whoever, like everything from EA to like Games Workshop and stuff like that. And then this opportunity came up to try broadcast TV, so I thought I would just give it a try and just sort of round out my like art direction portfolio a little bit. So it was interesting for sure. I mean, it was definitely an exercise in doing the most with the sort of the tools that you were provided, and so it taught me a lot in that regard, as well as some team management stuff. But ultimately, I sort of found that it wasn't as creatively validating as maybe some of the other things I'd done in the past. So I didn't think it was a particularly good fit for the long term. But it was like an interesting year, and I definitely learned a lot from it. So, which was the point. So
well, yeah, I mean, experiment. It's all about experience. If you want to move forward, you want to get better. It's all about experience.
Yeah, and at that point, I had done like the sort of concept art in games gig, the lead concept, the art director job. I'd freelanced, and I sort of felt like, okay, you know, I owe it to myself to try this, just if only to get a broader appreciation for like commercial art and the different requirements of the different mediums. So it was cool in that regard for sure.
So you mentioned Games Workshop, which I happen to be a huge fan of Warhammer 40K.
Yeah, it's so good.
What specifically, if you're at liberty to talk about, what'd you work on at Games Workshop?
Oh, I did some card art for their like Deathwatch card game.
Okay.
And I think I did some like artwork that went in a manual somewhere. I mean, they put out these calls to like 100 artists basically because they just need so much stuff. And so you just sort of do as much as you can sort of reasonably get done and then bounce it back to them. So I'm not exactly sure where it all ended up, but I know that I did a Tech Marine for a Deathwatch game, and then two others like Space Marines in this tomb. There were skulls in the tomb, if I remember correctly.
So right up your alley.
Yeah, right up my alley for sure. I like the 40K stuff a lot. It's cool.
Yeah, no, I'm a huge fan. So we're going to be talking about the new patch that just came out yesterday. I'm actually going to fire up the game so we could poke around in the game. Hopefully we could preview some of the things that have changed. I'm just going to do that right now, guys, so you're not just staring at this background the whole time. I'm going to gently play the game. I don't think there's any real gently playing the Darkest Dungeon. When I say gently, it means I can't really put my full attention to it, and that's a good way to get yourself killed. I gotta tell you how many times I've been streaming this game, Chris, and the chat distracts me. Blame chat is a real thing. I love blaming chat, and I just make the dumbest mistakes. And this super unforgiving game that you guys created here has kicked my ass many a times.
Oh, that's good to hear. Brings a tear to the eye. So we have people who like they'll tweet out like, "Hey, I'm starting like Drunkest Dungeon," and then they basically just get hammered while they play the game. And I'm like, it's entertaining, but I don't know that it's in maybe the best interest of their campaign. But you know, to each his own.
Yeah. I mean, it's entertaining. It'll probably take you 700 weeks to beat it if you make it.
Yeah, and you might be an alcoholic by the time it's all said and done, which is not something we condone.
Yeah, so no drinking and Darkest Dungeon, which I think is good advice. I'm actually loading up my previous game. You were here when I beat the game.
Yeah,
so
that's right. I was hanging out in your chat.
You were hanging out, making me extra nervous.
It's one of my favorite things to do in the world is to watch people go beat the game. I love it. I love the reaction to that, like, to that final boss and
come on to your maker.
You come onto your maker. Yeah, I mean, we knew people were just gonna like rage about that, and it's just so satisfying because we felt like it was like such a good thematic way to like reinforce this idea that you can't like four little dudes marching around in his lower intestine, you know, are not going to put an end to this thing. And so we just wanted to go that extra mile and sort of almost break some game design rules a little bit, just to sell that the importance of that like thematic and creative storytelling aspect of sort of the, you know, cosmic insignificance of mankind, and the fact that although you'd suffered and done your best, it really wouldn't matter in the end anyway, which is definitely in keeping with our source material.
Yeah, well, that was you know, mind blown at the end there. We actually have an incoming raid here from someone I know you're familiar with because he's done some fan art for the Darkest Dungeon. So Zeke Death has just raided the channel. Thank you. What I'm gonna do, because I never get the opportunity to do this, guys, I'm gonna run my raid response. The regulars have seen it, but I rarely ever get raided. I'm gonna run it. It'll give you guys a minute to get on in, hang out, and then we'll go right back into this interview. Let me pause this music here. If you are watching, Chris, you'll probably get a laugh out of this raid response too. So I'm firing it up right now, guys. There it is, guys. Zeke, thank you for that raid. I really appreciate it. We like to keep it fun here, guys. So we got some wacky, I am deeply disturbed has just come up in the chat. I understand that. I can understand that. Chris, thanks for being a good sport as I played some stupidity here and interrupted our interview.
It's all good. I don't normally get that amount of pelvic thrusting before 10 a.m., so you've made my day.
There you go. Mission accomplished. All right, guys. Let me fire up that original soundtrack from the Darkest Dungeon. I'll put that back on so you guys have a nice little bit of background music here. So I actually fired up my game that you were watching when I completed the game. We were talking about how diabolical you guys are with you know, what you did and screwed with everyone's mind in that last fight.
Yeah, it was just the whole thing was really designed to be like a thematic compression of the entire experience up to that point. So I mean, he shuffles you, he blights you, he bleeds you, he debuffs you, he moves around, you know, and finally, like, what else does Darkest Dungeon have? It has like player death, so he has to kill you. So we wanted to make that just part and parcel of the whole end game experience.
Kitchen sink approach.
Yeah.
Well, you saw my reaction live. I was feeling it. I think it was done excellent, guys. I think, you know, you accomplished what you told me your plan was to accomplish, and that was to really mess with the player, and I felt messed with.
Yeah, because although that, I mean, I guess we're talking some heavy spoilers, but it happens at a certain, like his auto kill happens at a certain couple of points in his life bar.
Hmm.
Um, but like horror and fear thrive in uncertainty, right?
Yes,
So the
absolutely.
first time you go up against that boss, you don't know how many times he's going to do it or what it's tied to. So the first time it happens, it's like it's now this looming threat that you have no other data on. So we found it really puts you, like, it puts players on the edge of their seats, even though it's a pretty safe bet that you're going to beat that boss. That's by design, but we still want to take you for a bit of an emotional
Yeah, well, the
ride.
players don't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
The players absolutely have no idea that's what's coming. We will avoid the spoiler talk, guys. There's going to be a couple things, obviously, that are spoiler-ish that we need to address because basically what your newest patch for, the coming in hot patch, it's to address some of the negative feedback, which I really gotta hands down to you guys because you did your Kickstarter campaign. Kickstarter campaign went awesome. You got the full release out. Game was well received. The game did really, really well. You guys could have just called it quits. That's it. We made our money. We're happy. But you guys, you love the community. You show that in coming out to like these live streams. You actually listen to player feedback, and you said, all right, these are some concerns. They're valid. Let's address them. And I have to say,
that's pretty much it. Yeah.
I have to say, reading those release notes, I mean, I was like, oh my god, these are like half the things I was going to complain about, and they've been corrected.
Thank God we got it done before I had to talk to you.
I mean, I have to say that, like, I almost called it quits at the very end of this game because of the grind.
Yeah, I believe it.
The grind was real, and I'm someone who doesn't have a lot of free time, and I was just like neglecting life to get a few extra characters into the darkest dungeon because of, and what you guys can see here on the screen, this little icon here means your team cannot return into the darkest dungeon. Once they make one successful run, they are out, which was very controversial, I'm sure. So I'm sure you got a lot of negative feedback about that.
Yeah, we got, actually, in and of itself, it was more, like, we got negative feedback, but we got a lot of, like, oh, that's really cool and thematic as well. So in and of itself, I don't think the Never Again thing was the problem. I think it's recouping from a high-level party wipe or several high-level character losses.
Yeah.
That's because it's no longer, you no longer feel like you're making forward progress even on the metagame. You're just playing catch up, and that's not as fun as sort of forging a path or strategically undertaking missions to like increase your wealth in different ways. So we're definitely sensitive to that. It is a little bit interesting though. In order to get that that high stakes poker feel where you're playing for all the chips, we can't soften our position as far as killing off your high-level dudes or, you being able to farm the entire Darkest Dungeon with one team, because it robs the experience of that tension, where things can just go wrong, but you're playing for, all your best dudes are on the table. So it was interesting for us to sort of try to find ways of reducing, grind and frustration without compromising that sense of, like, playing with your top-level guys is like sitting down at the millionaire's table,
Yeah, and you know something? I completely agree with what you're saying. I think you guys came up. Obviously, it's not fully tested yet. Patch was out yesterday. I haven't had time to really test it myself. And this is the first time you ever did like a beta patch like this.
Well, I mean, the game is out now, right? So I think the expectations are a little bit different.
Exactly.
In early access, we would have just put this live and then course corrected as the feedback came in. That's kind of how we ran early access. We never, pretty much every patch would get aggressively hot fixed for like a week after it was launched. Tuning, bug fixes, the rest of it. And we just felt like that's why people are in early access. They want to see the game shift and change and be a part of its evolution. So we wanted to expose that a little bit. So we would just push the stuff live, after giving it an internal smoke test. But now I think it's a little bit different. The game is out. The expectation is that it's, as balanced as it should be. It works the way it should. And, introducing a class that, has a profound effect on the economy, introducing heirloom exchange, introducing all that stuff. We wanted to just make sure that it was having the intended effect before we put it loose in the wild. So that's why we went with the beta approach this time out.
Again,
and I think we're going to continue to do that, to be honest with you. It makes a lot of sense.
Now that's something I want to talk about in a second, because you said continue to do, so we're gonna have to comment on that. But to go into these changes that you were mentioning, and one of them was something I would have recommended to you, but you guys already did it. So the stagecoach has been updated, guys. And it now has the potential of giving you recruits that don't come in at level 0.
That's right. Yeah, and they come in with upgraded stuff too, upgraded skills and upgraded weapons and armor. So they save you a bit of cash, and it also saves you the time investment of getting over the sort of like resolve level 1-2 hump.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I mean, like I said, towards the end of the game, you're going in the darkest dungeon. I probably had three efficient level 6 teams. My first run in the darkest dungeon, I didn't make it. I probably lost to 1 or 2 characters. Kind of shuffles your team up, so maybe I only have 2 successful teams now. The next team goes in, they win. I'm down to 1 team, and then I lost because the second mission in the darkest dungeon is brutal. I lost that mission 2 or 3 times. It took me. And then, you keep going, okay, now I need level 6 characters, and you got to grind them back up again.
Yeah.
And exactly like what you said, it gets to the point where you feel like you have no forward progression anymore.
Yeah, and that's something, too, that, we knew that there would be... We took a calculated risk, essentially. We held off on releasing the end game throughout early access, so that when we launched the game, it was like exciting for everyone. People who had been playing the game for a year, or people who had been holding off for a year and waiting to buy it. And we felt like the upside of that would sort of outweigh... we knew we would get feedback around the end game because it hadn't been broadly tested. We had an internal testing group we rolled it out to, just prior to launch, just to make sure that it was working kind of as intended. But we knew we'd be staring down a lot of feedback around how the actual complete game cycle works, how it feels. And so we kind of anticipated that there would be feedback and comments. And so I think that this people mentioning things about like the grind and coming back from a tough loss in the darkest dungeon is totally valid, and in a lot of cases wasn't things weren't moving along as smoothly as we had hoped in terms of like farming up a big roster and then sending your constantly scooping the cream off the top and sending that into the darkest dungeon. So hopefully with this patch we've taken the edge off a lot of those things and given players a little bit more choice.
Yeah, I mean, for some people that are out there, the diehards in this game, they almost feel like the change wasn't necessary. They like the pain so much. That's how I feel. Like some of the people love this game. Other people, again, overall, this game is probably not for a casual player at all. I don't think that's who you were by any means attempting to attract with this game.
No, it was. I mean, it was all. The game has always just been its own thing. It's not really, I think, for casual people or casual players or people who just want to sort of go in and feel validated. I think the first left turn that Darkest Dungeon takes is just that it's not a power fantasy. So a lot of RPGs are, and that's great. I love those games, but that's not what this game is. So right away, I think there's a huge group of people who are like, well, I don't have a whole lot of time to spend on games. If the game isn't making me feel good, I don't want to do it. So immediately out of the gate, we're sort of going in a bit of a different direction.
Yeah, and something, I completely appreciate that. I recently spoke on one of my live streams about the whole power fantasy of RPGs, and how like that doesn't drive me anymore. I feel like a lot of games are made for casual players. They're not very hard. You could beat them on normal or maybe a harder level without spending the time to look for crazy upgrades or doing anything special. Kind of just peruse your way through. This is not that game. And
no, but it feels better to beat this game than it does those games.
Oh, absolutely.
And that was sort of the idea. I think in the chat there, Games Under Development makes a really great point. Like our game really does try to teach you that you're going to lose people, and that's just part of the experience. And so hopefully once once people get over the learning curve and they realize there's no healing magic, there's no like big heals. There's no elemental magic. It's not like a sort of D&D romp through a fantasy world. There's no dwarves. And that losing people and getting killed is sort of part of what you're going to need to do. It's a tactic, to get you to the end. Then, yeah, even more casual players start really enjoying it because it really is an exploration of a downfall as opposed to a celebration of, manly heroism.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I learned that lesson the real hard way when I was playing this game originally. When I had the press release, so I've been playing this for a long time. When I had the original press release of this game, I probably spent like the first 3-4 hours dying. Sometimes I'm that gamer who just wants to throw his hands up, let the world know that I am Rambo and no one else is, and just crush everything. And sometimes it's just fun to enjoy that. This is not that game, yet I found this amazingly satisfying. Like you said, when you beat this game, you feel like you achieved something in life.
In life.
No, seriously, in life, definitely. I felt like any time someone said anything to me for the remainder of the week, like, hey Matt, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, I'm like, no, I beat the darkest dungeon, I don't have to do anything.
You're taking all your holiday time.
Exactly.
You're growing a beard. You're not showing up for work.
Exactly. I call in work. I'm like, well, did you beat the darkest dungeon? Just so everybody knows, the chat, I am reading all your responses. I'm not responding too much because I don't want to disrupt the amazing interview that's going on, but if I do see any cool questions come in, I will respond to them. Chris, you feel free to do the same. And Gud, who's one of our fellow streamers here on FMP, actually mentioned something really cool. He feels like this game has the potential to take a casual player and make them into a hardcore player.
Yeah, I was noticed that a little earlier, and I think that's if it works, that's cool. That would certainly be great. I think that accepting losses is sort of the first turnoff for a more casual player. They're just not used to it. But once you do that and you realize that people in our game, this is going to sound terrible, are a resource, and your estate consumes them. And so it's really about, you're the thing I always tell people who are just starting out, and you're the hamlet, you're not the heroes. Like you're the town as a player. These guys that you're running around with, they can become important to you. They can sort of quote unquote earn your respect and be very, very valuable. But at the end of the day, they're parts on a car that are trying to get you somewhere, which definitely is a different philosophical sort of like take than many RPGs.
And I gotta agree with that. Like, people get so used to naming their characters, like, oh, I'm gonna name this character Mateo, and like we will go once again look at my graveyard after this. I was daring enough to, while we're doing this interview, actually enter into my New Game Plus and try and play my New Game Plus while talking to you. We'll see how that goes. But I was daring enough, but at the same time, like I was saying, we'll go into my graveyard from my previous game. We could show how many like Mateos have died. You're right, and I never thought of it that way, but when you say it, it's 100% true. You are not the heroes. You are the Hamlet. You're making it happen that way, and that completely makes sense.
Confidence surges as the enemy crumbles.
That definitely is a good way to look at it. Because guys, if you think your team is making it to the end, if it's your first run, especially if it's your first run, well, think again.
Continually onslaught.
Yeah, I was always very tempted in games like XCOM and things like that. Like, I would always just chronically save and reload and save and reload. And one of the first decisions we made with this game was just to constantly autosave so that like I said, you're playing poker, and once a move is made, it's made, and that's the end of it. And that really helps people accept the idea of that the characters are sort of, I don't want to say disposable, because I don't feel like that's an optimal way to play the game, but that loss is a part of the game. It's like, really woven into the fabric of the game itself, and that's really why we're doing that autosave all the time. It's just,
you got to learn to accept it right off the bat, because it's happening. You got to deal with it. I mean, that's something I learned playing this game, definitely, without a doubt. It is definitely something different. And you mentioned XCOM, and XCOM 2 just recently dropped, and
Mm-hmm.
I loved XCOM 2, but after playing this for so long, I honestly felt not playing XCOM on Iron Man, I felt like I was cheating.
Plus, it just takes so long. Like, okay, a guy dies, so you watch that animation, and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna reload my save. It loads, then you're back in the game, and you do a different move with that same guy, and maybe he dies again. You're like, okay, I gotta reload. And after a while, I found that like my preciousness was killing my enjoyment. You know, that's not the game's fault at all. It was just me trying to be OCD about keeping everybody alive. But it was just I was looking at a loading screen more than I was playing the game, which maybe speaks to my player skill, right? But
yeah, but I was pretty similar. I mean, I played XCOM. Not on the lowest level, but on, I believe it was on Commander, it was called. I didn't play on Legend, so I played on Commander, and I had some really good runs where there was no reloads, but then like the second, just like in this game, the second you let your guard down, you kind of make your guy take one step forward too much. Everything goes downhill, and it's just like reload, 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 reload. And that's how I played XCOM, and I'm just like, well, if I played this on Iron Man, I don't know if I would have punched my screen or not. Like, you know, it would have been pretty rough. Again, though, I made it through Darkest Dungeon, so it would have been a completely different feel, though. Like you said, it doesn't have the high-stakes poker feel when you could just at any time hit reload. I don't want to miss this. There was a question that came in a while ago, and I know this was in your release notes. You guys are working on the Linux version.
yeah, it's actually it's very close to being finished. We have a guy who's basically been porting it for the past month or so. So we're just looking at getting it, kind of putting the finishing touches on it, and yeah, it's definitely coming. It's not something that fell off the radar. It's just, you know, being a small, like we only have 2 software engineers on our team, on our core team, and those guys are constantly busy. You know, we're doing updates, and we've got more updates coming. So those guys are usually locked down, and so we had to use an external guy. So that's really just just what we're waiting for. But he's been awesome, and you know, the minute we got him set up on our repo, he started to get in there. So it won't be long now.
So yeah, and all right, so there we go. There's your answer, guys. There is your answer to when the Linux version of the game's coming out soon. You mentioned that you have a small team. Your team, yeah, I talked about this with Kier last time he was on. It's definitely a small team. How did that the whole small team dynamic work out?
Well, you know, okay, so maybe for people who don't really know, like Tyler and I have been working around Vancouver at different game industry jobs, and finally found like a window to sync up. We'd always wanted to do something together. We were buddies. We had talked about this game, you know, for about a year on and off, and finally the timing worked out. And so the first thing we knew was that, you know, because we're older or sort of like more senior in our careers, that's a nicer way to put it, we had a high opportunity cost. Like, we could go get jobs that paid well elsewhere, and so we really wanted to be like fiscally responsible with the game. And the best way to do that is to build a team that doesn't require a hit for you to get paid for your time, because we knew we were going to be you know, bankrolling the whole thing ourselves, like basically just bootstrapping and using up all our savings to develop the game. So it was important that we don't require like just a metric buttload of sales in order to like break even or barely keep our families afloat. So the small team, you know, plus we had worked on larger teams, and you know, we didn't want to get back into all that. So we were looking for, you know, people that could bootstrap, that could be self-sufficient for, you know, a matter of 2 years basically, which is a big ask, and who weren't junior, which is, you know, makes it even a more narrow window. And we were really lucky to find guys like Kier and Pierre, and earlier a dude named Kelvin. And so, you know, we kept it small, we kept our costs down. We were very, very, you know, humbled and grateful by the Kickstarter success. But, you know, even that like goes all the way right back into development. And you're unlocking stretch goals, so that eats out of the money that you earn, which is fair. That's up to. But really, the small team was just like, hey, we're gonna do sort of this weird indie RPG board gamey, nice great deal there. kind of thing, and we didn't know how big the audience was going to be, and we didn't want to take for granted that, oh yeah, a game's going to be great, you know, oh no problem, like we're going to sell so many that we won't have to worry about it. So the small team helped keep the costs down, and so sales above and beyond a certain amount are, it's just butter, and we're able to take care of ourselves essentially.
I'm getting frustrated with myself over here because I don't remember what items go to what curios, and I'm just.
Isn't that medicinal herbs on the carcass?
Oh, it's herbs. It's herbs. I don't have any. There we go.
You gotta season the meat.
To season the meat. I was like anti-venom, and I was like, no, that didn't work. I was like, no, you use bandages for a corpse. I'm like, what is it? All right, well, I figured it out. You know, I can't remember everything. Speaking of seasoned veterans over here, or you know, being seasoned, that's how I feel myself. I'm the old man on the team here.
I feel old when I look at like Twitch. Like some dude just nipple my son gave me a picture of a dude sucking on the end of a banana. I don't know what that means.
Oh, so this is the stuff that people like you and me, we kind of just gotta look at it and go, okay,
cool. Yeah,
moving on.
it's a dude sucking a banana. Awesome. Between that and your hip thrusting, it's like quite a day already.
Well, I would tell you the hip thrusting isn't that's not the normal Mateo that you would handle. But getting into the spirit of streaming, having a good fun time here at Feed Me Pixels, these are the things people like to see. I don't mind putting myself on display, so people can actually sit here and have a good laugh sometimes, because there are a million other streamers out there they could be watching, and I gotta say thank you to them for actually coming out here and enjoying my content. So the little things like that, if they enjoy it, they have a good time, I'm all for it. Damn it! I did not do good math there. I did poor math. But don't let me get distracted by this. I'm in the back of my head. I'm going, this is New Game Plus. You could only lose 11 people. I think it's 11, right? That's the correct number.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you can only lose 11. Focus. But you know something? I'm not gonna say this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, because you've poke around the channel pretty frequently. But this is an excellent opportunity. I don't want to spoil it by getting frustrated over my characters getting their faces beat in. Yeah, Freaky Paws, you missed my raid response, which happens to be me thrusting my hips. I'm sure you've seen it. You've been here before. That's what it is. People in the chat are a little confused about the hip thrusting at this point. But talking about the community, everything that goes on there, I've seen like some of your activity, what goes on. I know there was a really funny scenario. Well, for me, I'll say it's funny. I don't know if a lot of people in the chat are familiar. There was a streamer, what is it, Band vs. Game? I'm sure you're familiar with this.
Oh, yeah.
So to let everybody know the scenario, Man vs. Game rage quit. He was playing Darkest Dungeon. I think he lost like one of his beloved characters. That was a level 3 character, and just like we were talking about earlier, don't get attached to your characters. So he lost the character because of, and this is another area of complaint from some people. His character was on death's door, and he was trying to feed the character to get him up one HP so that he wouldn't die of starvation, or he just wouldn't die before the next battle. And the character kept refusing to eat because the character was full. And then the feeding scenario was triggered. The starvation mechanism was triggered, and he didn't have enough food for everybody, and that character died of starvation. And he was pissed because a second ago the character was full, but now he died of starvation.
Oh, he was so mad. He was so mad.
I saw your response that he had his full, but it wasn't enough, and I was dying.
I don't know if you appreciated it. I never heard back from him. But the thing
was
that
fantastic.
happened, though, from what I saw was he had a character at death's door. He fed him up till he was full, and then he had a fight, and then the character was like blighted or something, and blighted back down to death's door again. And then he was out of food at that point. So if he had still had enough food to do the hunger proc, he would have been okay. So it's maybe not quite as bullshit as advertised, but I mean, we've heard about the hunger feedback, you know, the hunger being sort of a clunky mechanic in the game, and it absolutely is. I'm not going to shy away from that.
Now is the hunger, from what I read, the hunger mechanic is just random tiles, and that's how it's triggered?
Yeah, basically. You know, as you move through the dungeon tiles, some of them, like, they're just like little cards, right? Like, some of them flip over curios, some of them flip over encounters, some of them flip over hunger. And that's kind of how it works.
Okay.
So
I do agree.
It doesn't respect that you may have used food to heal. It's a different thing, but it's not transparent.
Yeah. Sometimes it's frustrating because it feels like you just fed your characters 3 seconds ago.
Yeah, exactly.
So I do agree that is a clunky mechanic and something I myself have complained about.
But this is an interesting example as far as like game development goes. It's always been on our radar. We have several different like designs for re-implementing hunger, but as much as, you know, the critical mass of feedback around hunger never really outweighed some of the other things we felt were more pressing. So even, for instance, in this patch, we really felt like the whole grind thing should be our primary area of focus, you know, for our first patch after launch. And so you can't always do the things that you want to do, even on your own game, you know, even when you know something is maybe not the most elegant implementation of an idea. Sometimes ideas need to sort of sit in a holding pattern, or they end up on the cutting room floor, and that's just based on pragmatism. Like, almost think of game development as playing Darkest Dungeon. Like, sometimes you just can't upgrade the guys that you want to, or, you know, you sort of have to make tough choices about what to make progress on and what to sort of punt, because you only have so many man hours, you only have so much, you know, focus and time, and so hunger is a good example of that, where we're definitely cognizant that it could absolutely be improved, but we've always found ourselves just sort of facing down things that we felt like were higher priority, and the noise around hunger is sort of, it's a grumble, you know, it's a gripe, I guess, with the game, but it's not game breaking in that sense. So it's kind of just enjoyed a longer lifespan than maybe it should have in its current form, but yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those trade-off things.
Yeah, again, I would also agree. It's definitely not one of my biggest gripes. One thing, though, that I always wish existed is that always got to me was, say you have a character who's blighted, who's on death's door, and you have other characters that go before that guy. I always wish that one of the other characters can use bandages, blight, or something on that other character, even if it took a turn, because it just like waiting, like, oh my god, it's gonna be his turn, and he's gonna get the proc from blight, and then he's gonna die, and then I'm gonna be pissed. Like, that's one of those things that's got me for a while.
Yeah, I have to respectfully disagree with you for exactly the reasons that you stated. You love the pain. That tension of, yes, oh my god, when it comes to his turn, there's going to be a proc, and I don't know if he's going to survive. That emotional angst is like part and parcel of the game, and we want you feeling that. Although it's the same thing as the inventory, right? Like, everyone, you know, not everyone, but a bunch of people are very vocal about, like, I really want the inventory to be bigger so I don't have to leave things behind. And we've always felt that leaving things behind is what makes the inventory interesting. Choosing between a stack of gold, or, you know, a bunch of food, or some medicinal herbs, or whatever it is, keeps that choice relevant and fresh as you move through the dungeon. And I've seen people screwed over because they're like, I'm just going to ditch this shovel so that I can hold all these gems, and then they get an obstacle, and then they go crazy trying to dig through with their hands, and then they get ambushed, and they're mad at the game, but really they made the choice to dump the shovel. You know, like, you gave up some survival for some profitability, and I really like that kind of constant
you know
tension.
something, I completely agree with you. Like, I'm just going to tell you that it has frustrated me, but that means it's doing its job. I mean, it's one of those things. You're completely right. It is exactly creating what you're looking for it to create. So you are 100% successful in that scenario. But I'm just saying that it has got me bad. It has got me bad. So now
someone was asking a little bit further up. Games Under Development was asking if the goal of the Antiquarian was to cause people to be more willing to interact with dungeon objects and break their sort of no books or no bookcase rule. Not explicitly, but it's a nice knock-on that people are more willing to mess around just to keep those sweet stacks of antiques kind of rolling in.
Good, bringing in the excellent questions. I do have to say that that's definitely a really good consideration, because I probably played the first 50 or so hours of this game refusing to touch anything because I felt like anything I touched smacked my hand. It's like that. No, stupid, don't touch that. And until I got daring, and I was like, whoa, there's some really nice benefits to be found by actually touching these things.
Yeah, it's a bit of trial and error, and then you kind of learn which dungeons favor which types of ingredients, basically, so you can provision more effectively, and it actually increases, your profitability.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't tell anyone to go out there and be like Darkest Dungeon Wiki and just, keep it on a secondary screen and cheat like that, because that goes against the whole concept of this game. That totally just ruins, everything you guys were going for. But at the same time, I say, like, on your first run through, be brave, touch everything, and learn, and do your best to remember it.
Touch everything with your level zeros, and then let them die or run away, and then you learn.
I had that exact conversation with Kier, which was basically, I said, oh, level zeros, those guys are expendable. I'm like, well, in a regular game, not New Game Plus, I treat everyone under level 3 as expendable. They die.
That's actually, that's why we changed the resolve icons. Until they hit level 3, they're all black and white, and then they get green at level 3, because that's basically internally kind of our metric of like, okay, they're worth something now. Name them maybe at level 3. Spend some money on them at level 3.
It's funny because Kier had that exact same response.
Oh, cool, yeah.
He's like, why do you think we colored them? And I'm like,
nice.
Yeah. I'm like, well, yeah, that's perfect. It really was. It really, it definitely is one of those. Like, some people have talked to me, because I've played this game a lot on stream, and then people were coming in asking advice. Not that I'm amazing, but I was capable of beating it. I did fairly well. I had some really good runs, and some good strategy. Again, like I said, it's hard while streaming sometimes, but it has gone over pretty well. And that was one of the first things I told people. I'm like, if this is not a New Game Plus, just don't be afraid to lose people. Don't spend $1 on anyone under level 3. Gold is really short in this game. And that actually brings me to the new class. I was really hoping to get through. I wasn't paying attention. I should have started a really short mission, hopefully refilled the caravan, and then I could have got the new character class, because I wanted to show off the new character class, but I didn't have one in either of my running games. So the new character. Let's talk about the new character a little bit.
Oh, before we dive into that, I just wanted to Shinzetsu-sen had a comment, and I just wanted to jump on that, if that's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, oh, absolutely.
He said, your logic fails when a character is critted for 100% HP and dotted, which procs on his first turn and kills them. Where's the choice in that? And the answer is there's no choice at all in that. Just like in horror movies and Band of Brothers and life, sometimes you just get, dealt a shitty hand, and sometimes things just take a left turn that you can't control, and so the decision then is, what do you do about it now that it's happened? And that's the sort of space that our game is trying to explore. It's not that you have complete agency over everything. You don't. When your characters get afflicted, they do things that you can't control. They, defy orders. They behave, suboptimally. And sometimes, you're going to get a bad RNG string, and you're going to lose a guy for no fault of your own. But we're testing your ability to play the metagame at that point. How do you recoup? Do you run away? Do you push on to the end of the dungeon? What does that mean for your campaign? And those are the kinds of, problems that stem from a bad RNG run. And I think it's very part and parcel of the game. It's not that you should have choice and agency in every moment, but that over the course of a playthrough, a skilled player, a wise player, let's say, can understand the implications of these events that are sometimes out of their control and adjust their meta strategy accordingly.
Well, yeah, I mean, any game out there with any RNG, you're gonna get complaints. You're gonna get complaints. Look at XCOM. This, the meme where 99% chance to hit, the gun is actually touching the bad guy's head. and it's miss. Well, I mean, there's 1%, 1 in 100 times it's gonna happen. You're just gonna deal with it. And I everything you are saying, I believe in everything you're saying. It makes complete sense. It doesn't stop the fact that some people.
It still hurts.
Yeah,
it still hurts.
Yeah.
Yep.
Some
There's
people.
No doubt.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I was just gonna say some people are crybabies. Like I had a 90% chance to stop that trap. I just got screwed. That was a 90% disarm rate. Nope. It happens. Just deal with it and move on. Be quiet about it. Yeah. But okay. So did you want
the new class?
Yeah. Did you want to move into the new class? Oh my God. I'm such a. See, this is what happens when I'm not paying attention. I just went to rest with no food.
Oh wow.
Wow. So how do we recover from this one, guys? Is the question. We really don't.
This is probably the biggest.
The biggest possible mistake you could ever make. I did it just for you, buddy.
This is incredible. The level of incompetence is it's astounding.
Thank you.
You've done an exemplary job.
Now, I do also have to say I'm really out of practice, because that's going to be my excuse. It's not blame chat, guys. It has now moved on to blame Chris.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was. You got screwed there by the game.
No, that's 100% me not paying attention and then having to deal with it. I'm going to press on. Because
you're actually not too bad, to be honest with you. You've cleared a lot. Like, take a look at your map. I mean, I'm looking at it delayed.
No, it's not bad. I still have a chance. I have a chance.
Yeah, I think you're okay.
Yeah, so I have a chance. It happens. We'll go with it. I'm probably gonna get the nightmare ambush now, though. That'll be great.
Don't you? Oh, you have a bounty hunter. Don't you have the prevent skill?
No.
Oh, okay.
Nope, I got scout ahead, which isn't really going to help much.
No, it won't, but good luck to you, sir.
I know. And I was thinking, I was just under the assumption, there we go. I could prevent nightmare ambush with my occultist.
Oh, there you go. Red versus Twitch, he camped with no food, and when you camp, you need to eat, or else they get stressed and hungry.
Yeah, so they take physical damage. It's rookie mistake. I've done so many rookie mistakes while streaming, talking to people not paying attention. I once went for a Siren boss fight. It was a level 3 Siren. I went into the map with no torches. Because I'm sitting there, yeah, guys, we're going to fight the Siren. We're going to do blah, blah, blah. I went in, and then, like, the second I go in, my mods start making fun of me. I have super polite mods. But I lucked out. I made it all the way up, like, to the Siren, no problem. And then I camped right before the Siren, and we had the fight, and it was good. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, it is what it is. But
what is this? 90% of rooms? Dude, you're okay. You got like maybe 2, maybe 3 more fights.
I don't know, but but I'm highly stressed. So we'll see what happens there. Now and look at that. As we say it, my resolve.
And there's a Shambler altar back there.
Yeah, no, not gonna happen. I'm not touching that thing. Are you crazy? Are you crazy? So
okay, new class, yeah.
Before we go into the new class, there's one thing I wanted to mention, which is the heart attack mechanic.
Right.
Okay. Now I complained to Kier about this one too. I am completely cool with stress being another form of health that you have to maintain. That you really need to make sure that you're watching stress. Basically, you need to base your classes or your team off of that. Completely cool with that. I just don't like an actual heart attack. I feel like if these guys are tough enough to brave going into the darkest dungeon, to going into these crazy, battles, that they wouldn't have a heart attack. I'd rather see them run away, go catatonic, it's something like that. They could still die. I just don't like that it's a heart attack.
So it's a semantics thing.
Yes, it's some total semantics.
Okay. There's a string doc, I think, in there. You could probably edit it to say, like...
I'm out of here.
Yeah. Catatonic or something.
No, I mean, it's just like... I know, it's such a minor thing and it's semantics.
When we first introduced heart attacks, they would insta-kill you. So 200 stress would just be death.
And I didn't like that. That pissed me off a little bit.
We want you to be... I mean, every game has health, but our game has stress, and we want that to be the sort of central point. of the entire game. So it needs to be deadly. It needs to be a consideration. But we felt like the insta death was it was a little paralyzing, and it was a missed opportunity to sort of create those moments I was talking about earlier, where you sort of have to deal with the ramifications of something and recover from a bad bounce. So we changed it so that a heart attack at 200 stress now puts you at death's door, basically, which creates more tension and fear in the player, because maybe the guy's dotted, maybe he takes a tick. Now you're concerned about how quickly you can get him healed up again, but his stress only drops a little bit, so you're almost like reloaded for another heart attack. And I think it works a lot better now. And as far as thematically, I think there's some pretty scary stuff. I think the whole point of the game is that these guys are not badasses that have, come face to face with that. That's why they're getting stressed,
if you did not go into game development and animation, you should have been a lawyer. Because everything you say, I'm like, I completely agree with him. I mean, it does make sense. You were stressing earlier, these guys are not badasses. You got to get that out of your head. Obviously, your whole team could die at any moment. I've lost guys on, like, stupid fish people, and I get pissed off. It's like, out of nowhere, you get 7 spear attacks, and you're dead.
Yeah, those fish people are bad. Like, when you get the pack of 4 of them,
yes,
that's a pretty rough fight.
Yeah.
This encounter that you're facing is probably the roughest you could have possibly imagined, with those 2 stress dealers in the back.
The 2 stress dealers, as far as damage-wise, though, if we had I can't remember the name, but the mushroom-looking type dudes, they make it a lot worse as far as taking damage, though.
Yeah, they hit hard.
I mean, I kind of accepted the fact that, we're going to be stressed out. I'm screwed in that scenario.
I think you can still push through, though.
Yeah, I think I can make the mission, but the stress, I'm gone. And that's my own fault, because I wasn't paying attention. It's absolutely no fault of the game. Again, like I said, I will let the semantics fly on the whole heart attack thing, but I just in my head, I would rather see my guy run away and say, I'm not staying here, you guys are crazy, and he just runs out the door.
He just runs out the door. The Da Link went asks why heart attacks and not suicide. I think suicide maybe is more thematically appropriate for an affliction act out, where they hurt themselves, but I don't think I don't think stress is so tightly tied to suicide in that regard. That takes a conscious act, whereas a heart attack is something that your body just can't sustain, the ambient stress levels and the pressures that you're under. Whereas the suicide, it requires some thought, and I think that it doesn't quite match up. Although, we do have people hurting themselves when they get afflicted, because that's different. Their reason has gone out the window at that point, and they're operating, specifically under the guidelines of that family of behavior.
Now, Chris, I told you we were going to give you a little hard time today.
That's fine. Yeah, no, I love it, actually.
Yeah. No, and I agree with what you're saying there. As far as suicide, also is a bit. I know it's a really dark game, but there's dark, gritty, unforgiving, and then branching into aspects like suicide takes it to another level.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about having it as part of the game initially in those really, really early conversations, and we sort of felt like it's just not. You're right. There's some sort of ephemeral line there that we just didn't really feel like we needed to cross, and we'd still be able to deliver on what we wanted the game to be without sort of getting into this idea of explicit suicide. I mean, it can happen. You can have a masochist that is on death's door and then hurts themselves and dies.
Yeah.
But that's a little bit different from a declarative statement of so and so has just offed themselves. So yeah, we sort of. I mean, it's technically in there, but we sidestepped just overtly naming it or introducing it as a fleshed out mechanic in some way. For sort of exactly the reason that you're kind of tiptoeing around it a bit. It just feels like maybe it just takes it out of sort of morbid fun and into something different. And I don't think we want to be in that space.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit much. But finally, guys, we will 100% talk about the new character, but we'll answer one question first, which was from Rana666, which is your favorite class? I'm going to guess it's the occultist.
No.
Damn.
I don't know. I have a couple. It's really hard for me because every time we do a class, I really try to invest in the character design and fall in love with it and make myself think that it's the coolest class. and I feel like I really have an attachment to all the character classes. That's a cop-out answer.
Yeah.
But if it comes down to it, I think the Grave Robber. I like roguey ladies. I think it's just the coolest thing. The Bounty Hunter is another of my favorites, and so is the Highwayman. I like the rogue kind of, privateer kind of vibe. And
well, the only reason why I guessed the occultist was because in my graveyard there is a Bourassa, who's an occultist.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I know I didn't put him there. I don't know how he got there, so I blame you.
That's fine. I mean, it is Blame Chris Day, so let's just keep that rolling. Yeah,
I mean, I'm really not handling this as well as I should, this combat, because I'm distracted, and I'll keep saying that to defend myself. But so the new character, finally, the new character. What is it? The Antiquarian?
The Antiquarian. So essentially, her top line pitch is, she is not balanced with the other characters for combat. She is less effective than the other characters in combat. That isn't to say she can't do anything, but her skills focus primarily on self-preservation with a bit of group utility and some last gasp damage thrown in the mix. But she is not on par with the other characters in a fight. Her utility, however, comes from gold stacks higher with her in your party. You were just getting worked in this fight.
Oh yeah, that's alright. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make
it. Yeah, it looks good for you. We're gonna see the heart attack in action. After all that complaining, I'm gonna get to see 4 heart attacks.
Oh my whole team is actually has negative affliction at this point. I made some really bad decisions during this fight, and they're completely from lack of concentration. But it is what it is. Listen, the game is brutal. If you don't treat it as such, it's gonna whoop your butt. And here's a prime example.
So yeah, the gold stacks higher with the Antiquarian in your party, and if you use her to interact with the objects, as Gamer Under Development pointed out earlier, she has a chance to pull, well, a very high likelihood to pull like an antique out of the curio interactions and after battles. And those stack, the sort of common antiques stack really high and have a value just over citrine, I think. So you can actually make a ton of money without compromising your inventory space. And then she also has a chance to find like a rarer, like valuable antique, which is worth a lot more money. Yeah, so she's all about gold collecting and increasing your profitability, but it comes at the cost of you're kind of 3-manning or 3.5 manning the dungeon, so you're at a bit of a deficit in that regard. So she's almost like a torch mechanic in a way.
Yeah. So, I mean, and this is to combat the complaint that it's like too hard to raise gold in the game.
No, not really. We've always had this idea for this character. We just thought it would be a cool addition to the group of characters. I think her utility is going to be vastly more relevant early game than late game. I mean, I don't think you're bringing an Antiquarian to the Darkest Dungeon. Actually, we should make an achievement for bringing the Antiquarian into the Darkest Dungeon. But you know, not all characters are useful in all situations, so she may be favored early game just to get your feet under you, which is fine, you know. But this one, she wasn't designed specifically around grind complaints. Some of the other stuff we did this patch absolutely was, but we've always sort of loved this idea of combat deficient, but sort of, you know, estate utility class. Yeah. Oh my god, with the bandits, dude, what are you doing?
It's alright. I mean, what am I gonna... Well, I can't control... Can you hack into the game and change a few things for me here?
Yeah, I'll do that in a bit today.
and now they're dodging? Come on, Chris, what are you doing to me here?
Okazaki's doing 4 Antiquarian only challenge right now. I'd love to see that.
Oh my god.
I would love to see a quest complete with 4 Antiquarians. I don't even know if it's possible.
I mean, so right now my team is basically deciding what to do on their own. I'm not even playing the game. I'm just along for the ride.
Yeah.
I had 2 attacks that I had no control over. So we'll see how this goes. But, you know, like I said, you know, it is what it is. You gotta deal with it sometimes.
Or cowardice.
I lost my focus there as my guys get their faces beaten. One thing I have not been doing that I really need to do is before I make my attack, I really should be looking at what is the actual damage inflicted and am I getting the kill. I'm not doing that at all today. I'm pretty much I'm not guaranteeing my kills, and I'm ending up having to double up attacks, which I shouldn't have to.
You're also rolling that Abomination in Beast mode, which is stressing your party who are already about to, like, heart attack out.
Yeah, but I figured at this point I'm so screwed, I gotta kill them fast, because I feel like I can't heal quicker than they're gonna do damage. Again, you would know better, so why should I
don't know, I think that we have players out there who are, you know, who can play the game better than we can. They've certainly spent, like you were saying, Call of Cthulhu, like 900 hours played. In chat, Okazaki's played a whole bunch and has been like a really great member of the community. You know, we see these guys on Reddit and Steam and stuff with just hundreds of hours in the game, and I'm sure they have, you know, they have perspectives, valuable perspectives that as developers we just don't stumble upon, because our perspective is inherently different, right? Like, we're trying to create a challenge and create an environment, and authorship is one perspective, and consumption is another. And that's, I think, why early access was so great for this game, almost necessary for this game, because we got to see all those perspectives from like a consumer side. And I don't mean consumer in a derisive sense. I mean, you know, somebody who plays and enjoys the game, but they bring a different set of expectations, a different perspective to the work, and that has been invaluable for us in sort of crafting a better game. And I think the anti-grind stuff is a good example of that, where, you know, we can set up a problem one way, but until we get a lot of people in there and you know, checking it out and looking at it from their perspective, we're never quite sure how it's going to land. So.
Well, there's your first heart attack. Oh, there's a second heart attack.
You mean my second run into the woods?
Yes, my second. Oh my god, I'm out of here, guys. I can't handle this fight. Actually, I could have sworn it just said heart attack, but my guy is still here. I could have sworn, I don't know, you guys gotta look into some, yeah, that's, okay. Yeah, it said heart attack on 2 characters, but they're still up and running.
Well, they're at death's door, that's all it does now, right?
Yeah, it brings them down to death's door.
The blanket fire will finish you off. Don't worry, we'll get you down.
Alright, well, we're running, alright, there we go. Oh, after I ran, heart attack, but he's not dead, he made it. Oh, no, now he's dead. The whole team wipes!
With heart attacks. Victory for heart attacks.
Actually, the entire team wiped via heart attacks. and you know something? I'm completely okay with that, because I don't really think I was going to have the time to do my New Game Plus, and to get you to be here to see my misery, because I know you enjoy it so much, I'm completely cool with that.
I just think it's fantastic, given your complaints about heart attacks.
Well, yeah, I planned it, actually. You didn't know?
That's 4 out of 13. Oh, this was your NG Plus campaign, dude.
Yeah. Well, didn't you remember I said, oh, I started a New Game Plus,
you
bravely.
Might want to re-roll this campaign.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Like I said, I really don't have the time to focus into a New Game Plus. I wanted to do it, but as you see, that just went out the window. Thanks, Chris.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Let me pop into my other game and just show a little bit of the action there. Show the graveyard. Show the learning curve that I experienced. Now, actually, Gamer on the Development, who had so many comments, you know, today, he always likes to remark that he thinks there should be a mini game where you have to battle your graveyard.
Oh, Kier had this really cool idea for like an expansion or something where like, in no way am I saying we're gonna do this.
Let's make that clear.
Yeah, I'll get the disclaimer out there. But he had this idea where like the expansion is like hell, and you can only play with the guys you've killed, and you have to like fight them back into the land of the living or whatever. We always thought that was kind of neat. There was something to that.
That actually is a pretty interesting concept. When you guys announced the Abomination, in my head I had this concept that I was really hoping would come out. The Abomination is an awesome character, by the way, and I just want to mention this. My favorite group is not a named group. I actually love running the Houndmaster, Occultist, the Abomination, and then up front would either be Hellion or Man-at-Arms. and this is like my DPS group. I love the group. You get the anti-stress from the Houndmaster. You could pretty much hit every single target with that group, because the Houndmaster pretty much hit all of them. The Occultist could hit the back row. The Occultist with the stab also. The Abomination, he's a heavy damage dealer. And then depending upon the scenario, I will build the Hellion so she could hit all 4 rows.
Right.
And that was the class that like I put together to take on the 16-pounder, which for some reason for me was like the hardest guy to beat.
That fight is like a war of attrition.
It is, and I've used those exact words on the stream. It's a war of attrition. But once I put that class together, I put that class together with the main focus of beating the 16-pounder, annihilated it. I mean, like
nice.
I didn't get scratched.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like, because on stream people watch me wipe fighting in that fight. They watch me wipe once and then lose a character and run away. And I was like, screw that. I am building this team. This is my anti-16-pounder team, and it crushed it.
Ah, that's good. Yeah, I think that fight is cool just because it's so different from the others. It's not about like, you know, figuring a mechanic or something. It's just about like, do you have the endurance to kind of slug it out?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those where if you don't bring the right class, you have no chance. It's absolutely one of those.
Yeah,
the right
you
classes,
gotta do some
the right
macro
team.
damage for sure. It's a little bit like the Prophet in that regard. Like you can work through those pews on the Prophet if you've got like really like high end front rank DPS, but you're sort of starting that fight at a bit of a handicap if you've got to spend the first 2 rounds just sort of kludging through those things.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that fight is, you know, you need to make sure you're taking out the Torchbearer. That's the key to the fight, but you also need to be able to kill him and do damage to something that has so much damage resistance. So you need to be able to do that for an extended period of time. And when you have these characters that can kill the Torchbearer in 1 hit, that frees up the rest of your team to just, you know, go ham.
It's so tense though when you miss the Torchbearer guy.
Oh, I've hit under my desk.
Yeah.
And then you'll look up like a minute later, like, what happened? Please don't tell me. Or, like you said, you're really big on those tense moments. So when there's a misfire, it's a small victory.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You get a bunch of stress relief.
It's like someone threw you a parade. That's what it feels like.
So that misfire basically parallels the fact that you can go heroic instead of afflicted. Like, we always wanted you to sort of feel like there's a tiny little chance for something to still go right, even though everything's going wrong. And that was sort of the affliction role is essentially turned into a boss fight for the brigand cannon.
Now, I did want to move on to one thing. We kind of skimmed it earlier, which was actually, you said future updates. What's the future plans for Darkest Dungeon?
Well, in the short term, we've got well, not short term. In the short term, we have GDC next week, so we're going to be out for that. And then when we get back from that, we're going to work throughout April, and we don't have a date yet, but we're going to add town events, which essentially, think of it like a deck of cards. So when you get back to the hamlet, you'll pull from this deck, and any number of things can happen. And our original plan was to get them in for this update on the 8th. But, we felt like the groundswell around the grind was a bit more of a pressing issue. And, like we talked about earlier, being a small team, we wanted to pivot and, spend our man hours where it made the most sense. And we felt like, the grind stuff was hot on everybody's mind. And before we add more features, it would probably make more sense to tidy up what's there. So we're going to jump on town events when we get back from GDC. In the meantime, the PlayStation porting is happening. So we're looking at a early summer release window for PlayStation 4 and Vita. And then later in the year, we've got plans to do like a larger expansion to the game. We've loosely talked about this idea of like a more pure kind of rogue mode. So rather than just adding more classes and whatever to the base game, we thought it would be more interesting and give the game more breadth, I guess, to provide an alternate play mode where basically you just go until your guys can't go anymore, and we can leverage some leaderboard stuff around that. So we're looking at doing that kind of a thing.
That's actually pretty cool, because that was on one of my humble suggestion list that was on there.
Yeah, and then we can do things like daily dungeons, and so I mean we're still really only loosely talking about it. It was a tremendous push to get the game out the door, and then we were kind of reeling and bug fixing and supporting and trying to get a little bit of rest, and then suddenly this update was on us, and then then GDC, and then town events, and meanwhile Linux and PlayStation. So there's been a lot happening. So we haven't talked in too great a detail about that, but yeah, sort of Q3 targeting and like a substantial expansion for the game. Shinzetsu-sen wants to know a hypothetical town event example. Could be something like a bishop comes to town and, praying doubles stress relief, but only if you donate whatever, do 25 crests to the church or something. So philosophically, they're not going to be like just purely random. They'll be more like opt-in kind of things. Although it is Darkest Dungeon, so every now and then some things can go wrong.
So your whole team, four people will get a heart attack randomly.
You'll come into town and your roster will be empty and all your trinkets will be gone. And then it'll be like, hey, leave us a Steam review, and there'll be a button to
I'm glad you have a good sense of humor with stuff like that. I mean, obviously, I could imagine. I could only imagine some of the feedback you got, because I have never rage quit this game, but boy, have I wanted to. Sometimes my daily mood can be 100% judged by how my afternoon playthrough session of Darkest Dungeon went. So, like, I'm back at work because I stream on my lunch break. I'm back at work, like, pissed at the world. And it's because Darkest Dungeon kicked my ass. No other reason.
It's good, though, that it's under your skin that way.
Oh,
but
yeah.
We get a lot of colorful feedback just because the game elicits strong emotions in people, and it's just kind of the nature of things. I think for us, though, like where it gets really hard is, a rage thread or a rage email is fine.
That comes with the territory.
It comes with the territory. We'd be naive to sort of expect not to get that. When it's a sustained kind of campaign or a personal attack or things like that where we're specifically named as people. And it's no longer about the game. Ouch, that's a big crit there from the Spearman.
Yeah, I saw it. If you saw my face, I cried.
Yeah, I did.
I cried a little bit on stream.
Yeah, I think that's to me is where it crosses a bit of a line. And we're not incompetent people. We're not. Just the personal attacks when it becomes less about the game and more about us. That's where I find it to start affecting me and frustrates me a little bit. But people raging about mechanics and stuff, it's totally appropriate.
Yeah, sadly that's hi, welcome to the internet.
Yeah, I know, the internet is like it's a strange place, and we've always felt that like the best thing we can do for the game is to keep marching, and we can't engage in every little skirmish along the way or we'll never get to the destination. The destination is shipping the game, and that's what people who backed us on Kickstarter deserve. That's what people who bought the game in early access deserve. They deserve a finished game. And we'd love to even go one step further and give them a finished game that is continually supported. So that's our target. And if we get bogged down in addressing every little skirmish and trying to fight every fire, then we'll never get there. So sometimes we just have to let those people do their thing and be upset and just continue to move forward and leverage the sort of that's another brutal crit.
Yep, it happens.
Leverage the constructive criticism, because there's been constructive criticism even framed in a negative way, which even that is useful, right?
Oh yeah.
So prior to launching this patch, actually, we had John go through all of the negative Steam reviews and put all of the salient sort of through lines into a Google Doc, and then me and Tyler and John sat down and read through the entire thing, just to make ourselves like as aware as possible of what people were saying and what they had problems with. So it's not that we're shying away from negative feedback at all. It's just that sometimes the hyperbole and the sort of conspiratorial stuff can kind of start to wear on you a bit.
Yeah, I'm just going to pause here 2 seconds, just let some people who are just joining, or the new people who have been here, the people hanging out wondering on, the regulars wondering what's going on with our content today. Just so you guys know, if you haven't figured it out yet, and it's on the screen, we do have this developer interview going on right now. Chris has been hanging out with me for over an hour now. He's an awesome guy. We are going to, when this developer interview is over, we're going to be returning to regular content. This week we're covering The Division. I'm going to be handing the stream over to Unbreakable, aka Joe, so he's going to be going on in a little bit. He's probably hanging out waiting for his cue to come on. But, you know, this interview goes on as long as Chris is enjoying himself. At the same time, guys, I will be giving away a copy of this game because it's fantastic, and I believe it should be in the hands of someone who wants to check it out. It's a fantastic game. We love doing stuff like that at Feed Me Pixels. We're always trying to give back to the community, and what better way than giving back a game that we really believe in. And we also have the Division giveaway running until Monday, so I will be dropping a link for that for you guys for that too, so you get in on that. So just hang out. We'll be returning to regularly scheduled broadcasts in the near future. Alright, I just wanted to fill people in because I see people coming in. They're probably wondering where Joe is. They're wondering what's going on. I saw a comment come in from our very own Freedom Redeemer, which was, do you have any plans to port this to mobile?
Yeah, we don't have plans, but we'd love to bring the game to as many, consoles as we can. So, we've seen someone break a keyboard over the game, and so my goal would be to get an iPad cracked in half over somebody's knee, preferably while I'm sitting across from the bus. That's my next career.
That's a very special goal you have there.
Well, you need to be specific in your goal setting, or you're never going to get there. So I've been riding a lot of buses lately. And, just to lay the groundwork for that.
Seriously, you just gotta, like, incognito start going up to people, be like, hey, what are you playing? Oh, Darkest Dungeon, what do you think? And just hang out with them and just give it some time.
Yeah, or, like, you see somebody with an iPad on the bus, you're like, hey, man, like, I've been thinking about getting an iPad, you checked out this game, you get them into it, figure out their bus, cycles, follow them around for a bit. It's not weird,
No, it's not weird at all. Definitely not weird at all. I had all low hits on that, all low attacks that round there. What am I going to do? I am focusing a little bit more on my combat here, because after that last display that I had going on, I'm like, no, I'm going to focus and not let that crap go on. I'm going to activate extra brain cells so I can talk and play video games at the same time. At least I'm trying. So, I know someone who always says to me, it's like, know what the guys at Red Hook Studios need to make? They need to make a beat-em-up game. And I was like, with all these characters. A side-scrolling fighting game with all these characters. And I find that concept so intriguing, but it would have to stay true to the heart that is Darkest Dungeon. It would have to be brutally tough. And I think there's a whole nother slew of elements you have to think of, because it's no longer going to be turn-based. Can you think your way out of this? Can you roll with the punches? It's going to have to be more strategic in your GUI skill. So that's a whole different game. But that's
a different game. Yeah.
I think there's some serious potential there.
I agree. I'd actually even love to do like a turn-based 1v1. Like, we each have a party and our moves can stress each other, and yeah, basically do like a party versus party version of the game. But that's just a dream right now. But I think there's opportunity there. I think one thing that we've taken away from this whole experience is that we've created like a world that people enjoy, and they like the characters, and so we want to definitely do more with that. So I think we were asking about what's next earlier, and that the stuff I outlined already pretty much fills up the year. But quietly in the back of our minds, as we head into the latter half of the year, we'll be starting to talk about what's for realsies next. Like the next game kind of thing.
I was gonna say that was my next question. I was gonna say, I bet it's way too early, but do you have any tickle in the back of your head of what game you want coming out next?
Well, I don't know. I think there's a lot of different ways to go. I would love to do another Darkest Dungeon game. I think that it would have to be its own game. It would have to be something about it that made it more than just a photocopy of this one with more content or something. Now, whether that's changing the setting, or whether that's blowing out certain mechanics or presenting it differently, those are all the discussions that we need to have. But I'm really proud of the sort of universe and the world that we made, and it'd be my pleasure to take another crack at it. Like, I don't think I want to turn around and do like Adventure Cat jetpack simulator or something completely out of left field.
Oh, and that totally seems like your style.
that is a copyright game idea by me, Adventure Cat Jetpack Simulator.
All right.
No one run with that. That's kind of my pet project.
I kind of made a nice little tiny boops here. Nothing big that's really gonna hurt me, but I should have noticed on my map that there was a roadblock. I went one way to avoid fight, but then I should have noticed that I was gonna need a shovel, and there's no way I'm going without a shovel. So we'll just go the other way. We only got to complete 90%. We got this. We are good. Yeah, I mean, I would love to see, again, like you said, I would love to see more Darkest Dungeon, but I feel like if it was way too similar, it would. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if I could make
right?
it through another exact Darkest Dungeon.
Yeah, I think that's what we're definitely cognizant of. Like, there has to almost be more of a spiritual successor than a direct sequel in a way, because I think just repeating the same thing but with a higher fidelity or you know, a greater amount of content, or you know, a gear system, it wouldn't be fresh. It wouldn't be as interesting out of the gate as maybe this game was. So that's what I mean when I say like any kind of sequel or follow-up. It has to be. It will have to be different enough to be its own thing. Like, they could be twin brothers, but they can't be identical. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They sort of have to have their own sort of proclivities and identities, so that, you know, DD1 and whatever the next one is can sit next to each other and offer somewhat similar but different experiences, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. One thing that really got my attention on this game was I was reading about it before it was launched, and I was like, wow, that's truly unique. I haven't heard of anything else quite like that. That sounds pretty amazing. It's intriguing. I want to play that game. I was like, a stress system, your characters go crazy? What? I've never heard of something like this. So I thought that the concept from day one was amazing, and that's also something you only see in indie titles. You don't see people taking a lot of chances outside of indie titles, because you got to go to a publishing studio, and they're like, no, we don't want to take chances because they don't know if they're going to make their money back, and you know that whole scenario better than me, I'm sure. So obviously, here, when you're doing a Kickstarter campaign, like you said, you guys are backing it yourself. You get to make your vision, and you guys nailed it.
That's great to hear. It's sticking close to your initial vision is something it's hard to do, especially in the face of, you know, like, you get a lot of feedback, you get a lot of opinions, you get a lot of great ideas, and you have to sort of remind yourself what it is you wanted to make, and then run, you know, feedback, ideas, suggestions, critiques through that filter, so that you're acting in line with where you wanted to go at the beginning of the project, and not getting sort of like decision paralysis halfway through, and starting to pursue features that maybe aren't in line with what the game was originally meant to be. That's not to say that this is a perfect game by any stretch. It's absolutely not. I think we covered a little bit of the dirt under the nails earlier with hunger and some of the other things. But it's certainly the best that we could do with the team we had in the time that we had given ourselves. And I think for that reason, I'm quite proud of it.
Yeah. Well, you definitely should be. At the same time, like I said, this is not the everyman's game.
No, and I think that's the great thing about, like, what you brought up about, like, crowdfunding, and, you know, it allows people to make games that aren't for everybody. It allows us to sort of, I think of it almost like farming. Like, if we can grow a certain crop and sell it to a certain type of person, and both people benefit from that relationship, that's ideal. It doesn't need to appeal to everybody. It just needs to appeal to the people that find it enjoyable, and if there's a symbiotic back and forth there, then it's sustainable for us to continue to make content for those people, and they get to continually consume it. So it's great on both ends.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the same time, what the Kickstarter campaign instantly did was let you know that there is a place in the world for this game. People throwing their money at something, they're already throwing their money at the idea of something, a concept they want to see. So that, you know, that lets you know off the bat if you're making something, well, at least has potential to succeed.
Yeah, exactly. That was a very validating moment for us, just knowing that that there was an audience out there, and you know, we still didn't take anything for granted. We still, you know, killed ourselves trying to make the best game we could, and and get the word out as much as we could. But it was a really nice gut check to see that Kickstarter succeed, and a big relief, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, well, you put yourselves out there. It can't be a really easy scenario. Like you said, you guys had to float for like up to 2 years. So, you just, you really, you put yourself out there. But like I said, it paid off. I can't wait to see what else is coming out. One thing I would like to see in this game is more mission types.
Yeah, definitely. That's something that has been brought up, and something that we'd like to do at some point. The missions that we have are, they serve their purpose, but they're not particularly like colorful or complex in that sense.
Yeah, so,
Pickle is actually asking, are there any ideas we'd love to have added but didn't have the time or money? A lot of it just boils down to time. I mean, we just didn't want to sit in early access forever and ever and ever. But this is one of them. Like, more sophisticated mission design would be, awesome for the game. But we just couldn't quite get there. And a little bit like the Hunger, although not the flashiest part of the game, the missions serve their purpose and they keep you moving forward. And although it would add value to make them more complex, it wouldn't change the architecture of the game as a whole. And I think that's sort of the razor that you have to use when you're assessing whether or not to pursue a new feature. Would it profoundly affect the game? Is it a huge win, or is it like an improvement, an iteration? So yeah, there's a lot of ideas. I mean, we got documents full of ideas and millions of ideas from our community and from people who have played the game and written posts on Reddit, our forums, and on Steam. So there's no shortage of things that ended up on the cutting room floor, sadly. But maybe Project 2 is a great opportunity for some of those things to shine.
Yeah, and hopefully, hopefully you took the best from that. You found out what was feasible and just put out the best options. I can only assume you guys did a good job with what came through and what you actually kept in the game, because, like I said, this is a great game. I love it. I put a ton of hours into it. The only time it ever really got to me is, like I said, is towards that end game grind, which you guys are addressing. And I would just like to say I do so much better in this game when I'm paying attention. That was a much better run. I mean, not that I was playing a super hard mission or anything special.
No. But it was better in the sense that not all 4 of your guys died.
Oh, yeah. Well, that is usually something I'm looking for.
It's a clear indicator that you performed better.
Yeah, well, see, if you noticed, I was actually paying attention to the moves I was doing that round, just slightly.
Yeah.
So I know you're coming up short on time here, Chris, and you're going to have to run, which I want to thank you again for your time, that you actually came out, you jumped on this channel with us. I really appreciate it. I had a great time here streaming with you. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks. Me too, man.
You are completely welcome on this channel anytime you want. Like, you guys got a new update coming out or anything. There's other streamers on this channel, just like Gamer Under Development. We call him Good or Good. He would love to do an interview with you guys too. So
sure.
Anytime you guys got new content coming out, you want to talk about it, you're working on a new project, feel free. You guys are welcome all the time.
Well, let's email and see if we can't hook something up for I don't know, maybe May or something like that when we have the town events in. That might make for a good chance to sort of touch base again.
Yep, absolutely. Guys, for everyone still here in the chat, I'm going to be doing something special for you guys. I'm going to be giving away a copy of this game because someone else needs to enjoy it. I got to tell you, like, we do stuff like this pretty much all the time here on Fuming Pixels, Chris. We're always giving back to the community. And, like, one of my favorite games, which is The Witcher, I've probably, between Witcher 1 and Witcher 2, I've probably given out like 15 copies of each game.
Oh my god.
Because one, it always goes on sale for
do you pay for those personally? Is that just like what you do to feed your sort of channel?
No. I mean, like, well, in a lot of cases, like when we did the previous interview, you guys were kind enough to send us some keys.
Oh. Sorry about that this time.
No. I didn't ask this time. I didn't ask this time, and this is my thank you to you. I feel like, what better way for me to say thank you than actually helping support the game. But the community here is like super awesome. They donate to us all the time. They make the giveaways possible. We have
I
have tons of contributors. People sending us keys, people sending us money, so they make it possible. And since we have that opportunity to give back, we're gonna do it. We're in a position where we can do it. And as long as we can do it, we're going to keep doing it. And sometimes we work with key distributors, like we used to work with Green Man Gaming, so they used to give us keys to give out to the stream. We've worked with a lot of developers, so they're promoting a new game, like, hey, would you guys stream this? Here's a couple keys. So that stuff happens all the time too. And you know, like I said, we love being able to do that. Some people don't have the opportunity or the money to be able to afford all these awesome games. So the fact that we get some, we promote a game, we give them out to people, everybody's happy. It's a full circle win-win scenario.
Yeah, it's great, and we're getting another dude choking on a banana just to close things out. So that's
absolutely. Maybe
place.
Later I'll do some pelvic thrusting again.
I can only imagine.
That is some of the less strange things that happens here. So yeah, maybe you should avoid the channel. I don't know. No, there have been some funny stuff. Like I was telling you earlier, we have the quirky bot, and we have a streamer that everyone's familiar with. His name is Betty, and he is, I guess the quickest way to describe him is he's almost emo. And you can't get a smile on his face. You can't get him happy. So we can actually push any type of music or animation to the stream while he's on. And we kind of use them to torment him from time to time. So like we play, you know, Wool Black Betty, try to get him to smile. Or if we play music to other streamers, you know, they might randomly twerk. You never know what's going to happen here.
It's a wild card. It's a town event.
I was about to say, it's just like a town event. We might all have heart attacks. Chris, it's been an awesome time. Thanks again. Guys, if you have any interest in this game, I say pick it up. If you're broke, wait till it's on sale and then pick it up. It is a phenomenal game. I love it. It was my favorite game of 2015. And give it up for Chris. Like I said, Chris, one more time. It was great having you on. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Thank you so much for the opportunity to chat and hang out. I appreciate it.
Yep.
It's great.
Yeah, hopefully we'll talk to you again in the near future for May. Okay,
thanks again, man, and thanks for everybody in chat hanging out and asking questions, and appreciate all the tough ones too. That's a lot more fun than the low balls. So.
Well, now that I know you're a bit of a wise ass, I'm gonna be much tougher next time.
I got to keep up. You got the sweet accent going on. I got to do something to, like, you know, compete.
Oh man, but everyone has an accent.
Not Canadians. Well, no, we have a boot, right? Everybody just hard time about a boot.
It's the first thing I heard when I started talking to you.
Really?
I was like, oh, he's Canadian.
All I heard was like, get in the fucking car. I was like,
oh my god, too much. I can't take it.
So Jeff, our friend who did all the, you know, bunch of the audio from Power Up Audio. There's Jeff, Kevin, and Joey. But we went to PAX East in Boston, and Jeff and I were just like over the moon with like Boston girls who had that like New England accent.
Yes.
And this is not an. I'll tell the story really quick, then I gotta go.
Yeah,
back.
No problem.
It's not an exaggeration at all. So we're out looking for this place to go eat, and under a streetlight is this brunette with amazing hair, with like the black jeans and the leather jacket, and she's on her phone. And me and Jeff are looking at each other. We're like, we gotta find this restaurant. So we go up to her, and we're like, excuse me, do you know where this place is? And she looks, I can't do a Boston accent at all. And she's like, I'm sorry, my fucking phone is broken. And we're like, oh, we love you. It's just this perfect, like, I don't know. I felt like it was in the town or something. And then,
I'm actually living in the New England area now, but obviously, as you stated, I grew up in New York City.
Oh, okay, right on.
Yeah. All right, Chris. Thanks again. It's been too much fun. Really,
all right,
you made
care.
my day, buddy.
Thanks again. We'll see you again.
See you soon.